First of all, yes, happy Good Friday to everyone. It completely skipped my mind that that was today, and I know a lot of people are going to be avoiding computers for the day. Now, I wish I could do that, but this is important. I think that we're going to be covering some really good stuff today. So hopefully we'll be able to at least send this out to everyone who maybe didn't get a chance to stop by this evening. But here we have it, our first Friday back after a little bit of a hiatus, and we are going to be focusing specifically on storytelling for Sound the Alarm. Now, this is obviously kicking off on the 15th of this month and going for a full month after that up to May 14th. So, want to make sure that we cover an additional aspect of the entire process that isn't really gone over quite in depth in some of the training. I want to make sure that we have that here, just so that we can be a little bit more prepared and really help out and make the overall experience better for everyone involved. And then we can translate that into telling the Red Cross story in the best possible way. So just to start off with some housekeeping and introduction. First Friday, we try to do these every month. That has not been the case for the past couple months, but we're bringing it back. Stay tuned for more of these as we can. They are always held from 6 to 7 p.m. Hawaii time. However, if it turns out that we need to start adjusting that time, we can certainly work with that. Even if it's not on Friday, I'll have to come up with a new creative name, but that's on me. So let's just work with it, and I'd love to hear your feedback. It's always going to be here on Teams just to give everyone the opportunity, because I want Red Crossers, both volunteers and staff members, to be able to join at any time and really hopefully just get a better sense of what the communications department is doing and how everyone can help. It also gives us a chance to network a little bit and just share stories and best practices. Okay, so for tonight's agenda, we're in the middle of the opening. Hi, this is what's happening now. We are about to jump into the meat and potatoes of what's going on this evening, guidelines of how best to go about collecting information and storytelling. Whatever happens on the back end, editing and putting all the final pieces together, that is something for me and a few of my key volunteers to do. I would like to focus in on very specifically the collection of this information so that we can do the storytelling. Then, as you can see, there's just way too much of me on this agenda. So towards the end, we're going to open this up to talk story a little bit. I want to hear about your experiences, your motivations, all of this, because once again, best practices are, to be shared, and we can all get a little bit better from that. Okay, so let's jump into it. First up, let's see. Is anybody having trouble seeing the screen? I see Michael's having some problems with the slide deck. Can anybody not see what's being shared? Or can anyone see what's being shared, I guess is the better question. Feel free to come on, Mike, if that's... Can't? Okay. Huh. Well, one moment. Let me try something here. How about now?
There we go.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Well, you missed all of these amazing ones back here, but we're just going to go straight into the first one, the content here. All right. So now that we got that cleared up, we're going to jump into the actual interviewing process. Now, what I'm hoping to go over here is something that, yes, it's specifically in this instance tailored towards Sound the Alarm, but this can be carried over into any disaster response and will hopefully make engagements much easier whenever you talk to those that we are helping. First and foremost, listen and engage. I'm sure that just about everybody here has heard the phrase, don't listen to respond, listen to understand. That's really going to be the hallmark of how we approach this. What we want to do is make sure that we have something that can engage people, open them up, and allow for something genuine to happen and a genuine story to be told. First and foremost, during the educational part of the installation process, when you're inside the home, any back and forth that you have, because obviously you're going and working on, education about 2-minute drills, setting up a plan for where people need to go after, once a fire has happened in their safety spot, creating the escape map, all of these different aspects. During those times, be listening. Yes, you're going to be speaking, but especially if you work in duo for this and have a partner there with you, one of you really try to focus in on any clues that are being given. Note any signs of wanting to talk. And the best way to do this is key words and phrases that can spark a conversation. Uh, any word like again that they say, that is usually a flag that goes up to let you know that, okay, there's a history here in some way, shape, or form. What brought you to their door today is motivated by more than just, yeah, I should probably do this and I get a free smoke alarm out of it, and that's pretty cool. So make sure you listen out for those key phrases. If you have a story to share, certainly do that. If you get the feeling by the context of what you're saying to the resident that they are open to speak, that they have a little bit of something to share with you, then by all means, share a story, use it to break the ice. Now, you notice I have you underlined there. And this is because I want any story that you tell to be your story. This is going to humanize things. This is going to make sure that you come across not as just, hello, I am the voice of the Red Cross and I am coming at you with an educational piece and this is very one-sided. No, I want them to know that you are a person who has their own unique motivations and history, and that could play a big part in helping them relate to you. Now, this is all very obvious, but sometimes it needs to be walked through. So that's what we're looking at here today. Avoid the hearsay of, well, I heard about this. There's no need for that. Focus on the things that you've done, even if it's just, well, I really wanted to be a part of Sound the Alarm because I've responded to too many home fires. If there's a chance that I can make sure that someone has the preparation and the education to help prevent any of those situations from happening in the future, that's very important to me. And that's great. So maybe you yourself have not gone through a horrifying event and a tragedy involving a home fire. I hope you haven't, but that does not mean you don't have a story to tell. So make sure that you focus in on that. And again, the you about that is very important. And then next step, again, it seems really obvious, but it's just to lay it out there. Ask if they have a story to tell. I put it at this point because, yeah, when you walk right in, that could be the first thing you say is just cut to heart of the matter and just say like, hey, you want to talk? You have a story to tell. That's great. Sometimes that can work, but I want you to build that rapport first. The conversation that you have with someone that you're helping just becomes white noise unless they are involved. And this happens in any type of public speaking, media, storytelling, anything that you might end up doing. You want to make sure that the audience, the listener, the other person in this case of the conversation is actually an active part. Even if all it is that they feel like they're an active part, that is critical. So you want to encourage them to talk, to share. And this is going to help all of the information that you give them be a little bit more impactful, and it'll help them remember it. Because again, it was a conversation that they were a part of. How many conversations do you had with your friends talking about a movie that you really love or really hated that you remember, but that really important economics lesson from school just kind of walked out the other side of your ears? That happens for me all the time, and it's just because one of them, someone's talking with you, and one of them, someone's talking at you. So listen for details. If they do have a story to share and they begin doing that, listen for details. Again, this is a different type of keyword that you're looking for. Asking about any kind of specific that can snowball memories that can kick off more levels of storytelling. They might have a lot that they want to tell you that they didn't even realize that they wanted to tell you. Then this becomes something that's actually a little therapeutic. Now, by no means do you ever want to push. That is not what we're looking to do here. But engage them in the conversation, ask them questions, show a genuine interest in what they're saying. It goes a long way. It goes a long way. So it builds that rapport and it puts them at ease. Because again, the greatest tool that you will have at your disposal is any kind of level of trust and camaraderie, friendship, however you want to look at it, that you can build with our client, whatever that means, disaster response, or in this case, a resident for sound the alarm. The other thing that I want you to listen out for is a quote, a testimonial. This is something where I'm sure if you watch the news, you'll think that it's odd that these major news stories get boiled down to one single sentence. When they cut to somebody who was there and witnessed the event, whatever it was, it'll basically be one or two sentences from them, and then they'll cut away. You know that person has a lot to tell you, but they found a way to just single out that one particular sentence. Listen out for that. Yes, I would love it if you could capture that quote, that testimonial, but if nothing else, make sure that it sticks in your head. If it's memorable to you, then we can follow up on this. And that's really going to be key. So you want to listen out for that. Sample questions. What made you want to be a part of Sound the Alarm? Now, this is good both for the resident and for you as the volunteer going in. What is it that made you want to be a part of Sound the Alarm? There is a wealth of information that comes from that one simple question in either direction, and it can be one of those bonding points, hopefully. How long has it been since you replaced your smoke alarm? Now, if any of you have spoken to John Blaylock, you know that he champions this cause of starting at home. You start with yourself. Go check your own smoke alarm. If you tell them, it's just a very, again, humanizing thing. If you say, I didn't even realize that I hadn't checked my smoke alarm until I started to hear that beep, and it really annoyed me. So I checked it, and now whatever it might lead to from there. That's a great way to just ease into anything as far as a conversation goes. You might want to ask, do you have any experience dealing with home fires? This is a weighted question. If someone says no, then they're very lucky. Good for them. That's wonderful. If they have something where they say, well, this happened to a friend of ours, this happened to a neighbor of ours, that's fantastic as far as they can share a story. That is a building point. That might not be a story that we want to collect just because obviously we want to avoid hearsay in third person, but it helps build that rapport and it makes everything much more amenable to them internalizing all of the information that you're giving them. If you or they have had direct experience with a home fire, then that is a very unique perspective to share. That is very personal, and approach that with all of the importance and the gravity that such a story demands. Because those stories are out there. They can be shared. Sometimes those stories have occurred, those memories are sitting there, but they're not ready to talk about it. In that case, that's fine. We respect them. That's their call on telling the story. But creating that kind of environment where it's like, if you want to share with me, I am more than happy to listen. And I want to make sure that we're working together to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. So moving on, now that you've done all of those steps and you've listened, you've caught a few details, you've engaged in conversation, what do you do with all this information? The simple part of it is take notes. Again, I know it sounds very obvious, but it's one of those things that people genuinely, it's kind of a forehead slap, like, oh yeah, that's what I should have done or need to do now. take the notes and ask if they're willing to be contacted later. What I have done and told you all of this about these great, wonderful conversations that are very rich in detail and meaning, that's assuming that you have the time to sit with them. Now, there is a list of units, apartments or homes in a neighborhood, whatever it might be, that you need to get to. So I understand that you are on a schedule. I understand that the resident is on a schedule. So if you can get all of that information or any piece of that information, I'm not looking for you to write their biography. I am looking for you to be like, that is an interesting story. Let's circle back to that. So ask them if they want to be contacted later. If they just don't have the time, they're like, oh, I'd be more than happy to talk, but I've got to get to a appointment, whatever it might be, and they've got to leave right after you guys are done. That's fine. Whatever it is, just take a few bullet points so that the person who does end up contacting them later on from the communications department can identify and show that they know a little bit, they are at least a little familiar with the story. Maybe there's some additional touch points that can happen at from the inclusion of another party into that. The whoever's calling to get their story, maybe they've had a personal experience or something else that they can connect with that person about. Whatever that might be, just grab a few bullet points. That's going to make them stand out in your mind, and it'll help us, make sure that that door stays open. The details to request for a later contact point. These are really obvious. Once again, full name, phone number, email address. It's all right there. And yes, those are the bare minimums. Yes, they should be on the service form that you're already filling out. But make sure to check on it, double check all that information, and then use this as an opportunity. Make sure they know exactly what the purpose is for us reaching out to them again. So down at the bottom there, you're going to see my contact information. That's my phone number. That's my email address. Feel free to save that on your phone. Feel free to give that to the resident. If they need, if they know to expect a call, likely from me and that number, that's great. If they have something that they want to, if they want to share, they're like, I forgot to say X, Y, or Z, they now have a point of contact. That means that you do not have to give out yours. And it provides just a level of security. If you can give them a direct name and a point and a contact information, that's going to make this locked in with a bit more legitimacy, which sounds weird. We're already the Red Cross. We're already in their home and we're already doing this thing for them. But anytime where now you're crossing the line into something, again, that's much more personal, then to create a new form of legitimacy on that particular level, like here's the direct answerable person, that's great. So make sure you keep that information. Now, this is all for the interview. This is for talking. This is for conversation. That's the easy stuff. Believe it or not, that can actually be the easy stuff. I want to jump into now some specifics as far as the visuals go. This is for any kind of picture taking. Last year, and we have the Alarcon family here, so they know, well, having a photographer trail them around. Now, we do not have a professional photographer this year coming to join us, but we have each and every one of you. So let's talk about the gear that you'll need to do this. So what I'm looking for is high quality, expensive cameras that can capture everyone's story in 4K. Not at all. That was a joke. Not at all. You don't need anything special. You don't need anything fancy. Most of us have smartphones. That's what we're looking for. Most smartphones, even the ones that are several generations old, are better than your average camera. So just use that. It's really quite simple. Don't want you to feel pressured about any of it. Just, like I said, you've got that phone number of mine. Just text me those pictures or email them to me. However it is that you want to work, it's meant to be very simple. What we're doing here is, again, just looking to tell the story of what we're doing. All right. The other piece of equipment that I really need everybody to have is a copy of the photo release form. This is critical. The laws surrounding what we can and cannot show in an image change constantly, it feels like, because we're still catching up with the technology of how, personal privacy versus property privacy versus, what the usage is of each of these pictures. All of that is constantly evolving. So I want to make sure that at the very least, everyone signs this form so that they can say, yes, I understand that my picture is being taken, and the Red Cross is going to use that to say, we went to this person's house and we spoke to them and, taught them about fire preparedness, and wonderful. Again, no personal information getting out there. It's just the image. So let's talk a little bit about the types of imaging. The tone for this, just like when you go into somebody's house, you want any pictures that reveal their house and them to have this tone of an uplifting sense of camaraderie. Now, granted, this can be both among the volunteers or between volunteers and residents. So there's a couple different versions of this: photojournalistic and posed/portrait style. Photojournalistic is anything that you do off the cuff. Think of it as a candid shot. People understand that pictures are being taken, but they're not asked to, like, hey, stand there, throw the shaka, do the Channel 2 news, or, whatever it is. Like, none of that. It's just you're catching people going about the work of the installation visit. Posed and portrait, that is exactly what it sounds like. Maybe you have a couple of people and you can say, hey, could you sit here? Could you stand here? Could you both look at the clipboard? Whatever that might be, that is obviously your posed portraits. Please show faces, but limit direct eye contact with the camera. So if I'm looking like this, it looks a little bit more natural than if I'm staring dead into the camera. That can create a little bit of a feeling of that, deer in the headlights, and that it doesn't look natural quite as much. So especially for the candid stuff, just try and make it look as natural as it can be. Even with the posed pictures, natural is better. Volunteers should look cheerful, engaged. That should be no problem, right, everyone? All right. Residents should look open and interested. This one is going to be a little bit interesting just because trying to photo direct people can get awkward very quickly. So this is when I rely on all of you, being the gregarious, friendly, wonderful volunteers that we are, making sure that just that level of comfort and friendliness is present, because that will put people at ease. Maybe you have at this point a joke that you can share, just any kind of a friendly comment, whatever that keeps the mood light, puts them at ease. I am not expecting you to perform. I just want everything to feel casual so that they loosen up. Few things are as, again, awkward as people that just know they're being like, act natural, and it feels bad and it looks wrong. So we're trying to avoid that. Next up, the type of shots that we got. On the left, you're going to see samples and just overall generalized points and themes. On the right side, we can get into the weeds with some tips. So I'll try and move through these fairly quickly. Volunteer installing the smoke alarm. These are exactly what it sounds like. We just want to make sure it is the proof in the pudding that we are actually in there with these smoke alarms, attaching them to the walls, and people have them. That is a thing that we're doing. That is not an empty promise. This is our proof. a few different ways that we can go about doing that. Up there, you can see close-up of volunteer twisting the alarm in, wider shot of the volunteer twisting in the alarm, or you can have a volunteer teamwork, or in this case, a resident watching the volunteer uh, install and test the alarm. That's great. All of those are fantastic. Let's see. There are some parts to this that we can, again, get lost in the weeds of the details for it. Twist alarm so that context is clear. A drill can look like a home improvement project. Every now and then we will get photos where you can't see the alarm at all. It's a hand on the wall and that circular frame is there, and then it's a drill. There's no way to know that's the alarm. It just kind of looks like maybe we're filming something for Home Depot. That's not what we're doing. So we want to make sure that the alarm is there. Again, it's the proof. Show how to test the smoke alarm. Now, this can be a close-up or it can be a wider shot or farther away. You can see here that these are all a little bit farther away because the smoke alarm clearly visible, but you can't see up close. If it gets up close, and we'll touch a little bit more on this in a later slide, you want to cover up the logo on the smoke alarm. This is to avoid legal issues. So the easiest way to handle that is to take pictures more like the ones that you see here on screen. They're far enough away where, again, you know it's the smoke alarm, but not so close that you can see, oh, that's serial number X2759. That doesn't get us anything. Make sure, and again, all of your training will cover this, but install smoke alarms in the proper places and make sure that it's clear that that's where we're putting them. We want to make sure that we're avoiding any kind of, blowback of people looking and be like, well, that doesn't seem right, or that's not what I would, whatever it might be. We just want to make sure that we're very by the book in these things, even though, again, we're looking casual, right? Next up, engaging with the resident. It's showing how to test the alarm, showing how to create an escape plan. You can be reviewing the safety checklist, all of those things that go into the educational end of the presentation and the installation, then that's perfect. That's what we're looking for. On the side there, again, you can see some tips to get a little bit more in detail. Explain to the resident that we may need to move a couple of items out of the way so that the shot focuses on the people and avoids non-Red Cross logos. Once again, we'll get into that. Be careful not to imply that the house is unkempt. So again, don't just set everything off. Like in the picture here on the upper right, I believe there was an item or two on the coffee table here. So rather than putting it on the couch over here and you just see like a random potted plant on the couch, or say it's a pile of magazines, whatever it is, get those out of the shot, and just so that, again, that the focus is not on anything else that might serve as visual clutter. The focus is on our volunteer, the residents. Let's see. Alternatively, position people in front of an object if it can't be moved. That is a nice little trick for getting rid of logos. I know I keep coming back to that. It's a very, very important aspect. You may want to sit with the resident at a table or on a couch or whatever, both, as you see here, to move any branded items out of the way. Again, posing it just makes it a lot easier to avoid any kind of hangups or issues or problems. Taking time to talk with the resident, that again puts them at ease for the photo, and during that, you might actually find a couple of candids that work better than anything you could get posed. Again, holding up the checklist, the clipboard, and here's the important part. Yes, we're dealing with a lot of paperwork that shows their names, or we could be going up to an apartment unit or a house where you see the address on the door or on a mailbox out front. Avoid any of those things that essentially dox our clients. We're not looking to show people exactly where they live. The fact that this is like in the upper right, you see the potted plants there, that, that looks like it's here in the islands. That's great. You'll see some photos here in a second where it's very obvious that we are here. Take that in comparison to the upper left. That's not here in Hawaii or anywhere in the Pacific Islands. And it's a great shot, and I'm going to continue to use it as an example, but it's very clear what's going on here. One way or the next, you can see that you're going to avoid specific ones. I personally am not a fan of, on the upper left, you can see, if you look closely, the house number on there. I don't particularly like that, but it's an allowable shot because you don't see the street name. So as long as you don't have those two things. If you're working off a clipboard and you're showing a clipboard of you as the volunteer speaking to the resident while holding it up, make sure their, name, address, email, phone number, all of that, make sure that's not seen. All right, coming up next. The next step is the resident creating the escape plan. We've got some great ones here. The little whiteboard laminate, the mini map that you use with the dry erase marker to draw the map of whatever room you're in or the house overall. Make sure to grab a few of those. It says, especially with kids, even though there are no kids in that upper right photo, I just want to make sure that that's noted, because having a child involved with this is absolutely critical. I'm going to take this moment to share a story that you're more than welcome to tell. Yes, this isn't going to be you directly, perhaps, but it is something that we've documented, and it is a Red Cross story. On the Big Island, a 12-year-old boy, while home alone briefly, heard a fire alarm go off. The smoke alarm went off. And he remembered his training from a Red Cross sound the alarm visit that happened about 4 years earlier. 4 years. But he remembered it. He knew to grab what was important. In this case, it was his dog, I believe. And he grabbed his dog and made sure that he got outside to the designated safe spot. Everybody turned out okay. Yes, of course, any kind of a home fire it's hard to say it went okay, but people were safe, animals were safe. That's fantastic ending to that story, considering the overall nature of it. So having a kid be a part of that lesson, it's very impactful image-wise, and then later on as far as storytelling goes. All of these, the tips that go into this, that's covered in the training. The exits, when the family is creating, one person should be responsible for making sure the plan is drawn correctly. If you want to pre-draw anything, if you're thinking, oh, I think we can get a good map picture. Like it's a simple room like the one here in the upper right. It's a pretty easy room to draw. There's not a lot we need to worry about, and we went over it. So you might want to draw it out in advance. That's fine to make a better shot. You'll notice in the upper left that they went ham with the dark marker because it was far enough away where it had to be seen. So just something to think about visually. All right, next up, groups of engaged volunteers. This is, you'll notice that there's been a little bit of a collection of candid and posed. It's going to be more heavily weighted posed, and that's totally fine. Don't worry about that. But I do want to hopefully capture some moments throughout the day. So starting off at the rally, all of our events start at 9 o'clock, I believe, this year, but we're meeting at 8:30 just so that we can all get together, go over anything last minute details and whatnot. That's a great time to get everybody together for a picture. So in the upper left, you can see that at Kahale Moe. We have the whole group get together, stand there. If you have smaller groups that are going around to neighborhoods, then like the upper right one there, you can pose a picture like that. That's absolutely fantastic. Get a couple of shots maybe of people knocking on the door. That can be as a group or an individual. And then candid shots of the actual preparation. I really love this shot because there's nothing overly remarkable about it, but it's the context of seeing, okay, we've got people that look like they're, talking about what's happening here in the background. And then up front, you've got people suiting up, putting on those Red Cross vests. That feels like action, like people are getting ready to do something important. That's great. That's the perfect message that we would like to share. All right. Just as a side note, if you're in a neighborhood, if you're out and about and you're visiting several homes, It's important to show that you walk on the side of the road, on the sidewalk, if there is one, or at least on the side of the road. No pictures of people just walking down the center of the street. It looks dangerous. It's just a bad look, and we can't use those. And that should be a little hint of just little things that we start to nitpick over after a while. But I really just the general tone of everything is what I consider to be most important. Types of shots. These are the formats. We have horizontal. You can get a close-up like the one on the far left. That I absolutely love that picture because even though it's blurry on the close-up part, it's a great one where it shows two of our volunteers. It's even though it's blurry, it's pretty obvious what that logo is. You've got Lily was there at the time, and letting everybody know about the details of the event. So it's just a fantastic picture. We've got the horizontal that's a bit more wide shot, panoramic, not quite panoramic, but a wider shot. And that just means that we can get like head to toe one or multiple people in the frame. And this is a fantastic one. And again, this is another one that really shows the atmosphere. And we really want to push that. It's so important. I'm sure many of you have heard me say this time and time again. Is that we have so many assets provided to us visually that are based on locations that are very clearly not the Pacific Islands. And it's just far more impactful if we can get something that looks like it's happening here. So that was one of the reasons why I was so thankful to have a photographer with us last year. Now, the final one I want to talk about is vertical. And you can see that over here. When you're looking at it, it looks off, wrong. Most frames aren't really designed for vertical images. Horizontal just looks and feel better, whether we put that into a video or whatever it might be. Horizontal just generally looks better. However, people now mostly look at pictures on their phone. And if you put this in the context of someone's smartphone screen, this is the natural way to look at it, and horizontal just looks strange. Like the difference between watching letterbox and full screen, where it's like, why did they cut off the top and bottom, even though you're getting more of an image? There's just a feeling to it. Also, for social media, that again, predominantly seen on a mobile screen, this extra space here at the top, where the palm trees are, and then over here in the blue sky, love me some trees, love me some blue sky. But if we put a caption up there, that works perfectly. So I don't want to block out too much of it, but that is what that is there for, and it's fantastic. So just a couple of different versions. So whenever you take a photograph of anything, try to get one where the phone is up like so, and then like so. And it should be pretty easy, and hopefully we can just dual purpose everything. That's the ultimate goal, truly. Okay. Now, a wall of text here after looking at so many pretty pictures. I apologize for that, but I just want to make sure that a couple points are really detailed out. I will be sending along a PDF of the slide deck to everyone so that you have access to all of the links that you'll see here. One of them is a link to that photo release that I was telling you about. Now, everyone should have one of these already and have access to it already. So when we go out, we'll have printed copies for you. But just in case, I want to make sure that you know where they are. So you'll see in the second bullet point there, obtain releases for everyone. Releases underlined. That is an active link to where you can find it and download a copy. The other big part I want to focus in on is that third major bullet point. Avoid non-Red Cross trademarks whenever possible. And then you'll see, unless it's a highlighted partnership. So we may have like volunteers from Pacific Current that help us out in our installations. That's fantastic. If their logo appears alongside the Red Cross logo, that's great. That's what should happen. They've earned that. We've earned that. That's great. It works well for both of us. However, if someone is wearing a shirt with a big old Nike swoosh on it, Nike is not a part of this event. So even though it's a shirt, it doesn't mean anything. It's just somebody's shirt. It's something that we need to avoid. And this can go into a lot of different directions. Like I told you, the smoke alarm, we don't want the logos for the brand of smoke alarms to be in the shots. It's best to leave those out. We do not want, again, if someone has a shirt or a hat or anything with the Superman or Batman logo, can't have that. That is property of Warner Brothers and DC Comics. That is not for the Red Cross to use. It also means that if you're taking a picture of a couple people standing next to their kitchen or their pantry, all those boxes of cereal, if they have, a 6-pack of Coca-Cola there, whatever it might be, we cannot have those logos. And it can even get down even further. If they're standing next to their refrigerator and there is very clearly a Kenmore logo on it from the manufacturer of the refrigerator, try to have somebody standing in front of that. And it really can get down to that level of detail. Now, this is all just so that I give you a heads up on the type of pictures that we would consider perfect and wonderful for all purposes. And we do that because if all of those qualifications are met, we can use that picture for anything, whether it's a social media post, whether it's a national publication that says, please donate money to the Red Cross, we can use that picture. If you get a shot of somebody and, it's installing the smoke alarm and the resident is standing there looking at it, but you see that they've got like a Quicksilver logo on their shirt and the Quicksilver logo gets into it, we can't use that for publication or anything of the sort, but we can still post that online and on social media. So I don't want that to stop you from getting the picture. But this is the level of granular detail that we can get into all of this stuff. So partner alarm. So when you see something like Sound the Alarm shirts, obviously that's going to have our partner logos on that. That is totally fine. That's wonderful. All right. Now I have been talking quite a bit, so I kind of want to turn this over. Has anybody had any experiences that they'd like to share, stories, best practices of how to get people to open up while on any kind of a sound the alarm or educational presentation? Feel free to jump on camera and unmute your mic. Hands raised if you want. Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'll just start off with the basic. There's an acknowledgement form on that clipboard. And as you're going through that and you're talking to people, that in itself can elicit a lot of conversation and build rapport. You're going to talk about a hazard. When you get to that point, a lot of people here have shared a hazard, a hurricane or two. So explore that. And that's a great one. If you've experienced it too, just, you don't have to go into too much detail, but I think that those are some key things that I've seen. And then also if you notice that they're a part of an organization, a volunteer organization, there's another great way to connect. So I've done that. That's how we got in with the Intertribal Council and the Drum Powwow at Bishop Museum, just through those kind of conversations. So that's pretty much, it's that simple. It's that easy.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yes. Building up that rapport, just having that friendly back and forth. It's invaluable. And again, we're obviously looking for sound the alarm, home fire stories, but this can be taken into any disaster response. Are there any other stories that would like to be shared, or do you have any questions? Best practices, are there any other specifics that you would like me to go into?
Hey, Matthew, it's Jerry on Maui. How you doing?
Hey, how are you, Jerry?
I'm doing well. Well, so we were very fortunate. It's just more of a story than a than anything, not a question.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Uh, that we were able to, the people that we ended up going were disabled veterans. We had some folks that were currently in the military. We just had folks that lived in a condo, and we were able to take the students out there, and it was amazing to see the confidence building that came out of it with the students and how they related. And then they just talk story, whether you were somebody who was born in the islands or somebody who's grown up here, and just watching the connectivity in the meantime while we're putting in smoke alarms, it's an amazing feeling. And so I hope those that who have done it, well, well, obviously, doing it for the same reason they did it the first time. But those that haven't done it, how much you get out of it when you put these smoke alarms in, and obviously they like the fact that they're free. So, um, I mean, smoke alarms aren't cheap. Even a 2-pack at Costco is 35 bucks. So, there's a value add on many levels. And then, yeah, the story that you told, we work with the little ones, when we do um, the other programs, the pillowcase projects and whatnot. And, some of the ones with the little ones where they prepare with Pedro, these all kind of tie in together. So
Mm-hmm.
if you've done any of those other ones, Sound the Alarm is kind of the culmination of those other programs. So it's a great event, and I'm excited that it's back for the for
Yeah,
the next.
Jerry, you guys did your first installation event today, didn't you?
They might have. Yeah, I've been kind of disconnected. I've been super
Uh,
super busy. I have
no
two
worries,
kids,
no worries.
kids getting ready to go to college, so you can imagine my whole world is focused on that right now. But yeah, I think there was some. It might have been the HANA. I know that Jenny was on deployment as well in
Mm-hmm.
California. So yeah, I'm getting caught up. We have a big Earth Day event coming up here in Maui
Yeah, yeah.
pretty soon at the Pacific Biodiesel. So yeah, there is some events coming up this month for sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So, as any other stories anyone would like to share, any other questions?
I would like to say something about installation, Matt.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I would say one, if you're comfortable with your own tools, try to bring them with you. Because what the Red Cross supplies is you always have to switch out the bits, and it becomes a little bit, um, you know, takes more time to install each single alarm. And the other thing is, if you actually organize the alarms, take them out of the boxes, the mounting screws, and things like that. If you kind of pre-organize that instead of trying to rip it open at the facilities or the homes, it's a lot easier to actually install, and also become familiarized with the alarms as well that you are installing. Take a look at them first before you actually start going out into the um into the residence.
Hmm. Excellent. Thank you. Great tips. And thank you for letting us travel around with your family last year. That we we actually have a lot of those pictures making the rounds on a national level now. So that's really cool.
Thank you. I
Any
appreciate that.
yeah. Any other comments about storytelling and the Sound the Alarm, or any questions about storytelling during Sound the Alarm? Well, the way this is all set up is I wanted to make sure that everybody had an introduction to this aspect of the event, because I know everyone's being trained up or has been trained up on what needs to be said in the residence for the educational process, for the installation process, all of that. But there is another aspect to it, and that's what I wanted to touch on today, just to give everybody an introduction to how best to capture stories, because I know that so many of you on a disaster response already make these personal connections. So I'm not telling you anything new. What I'm doing is hopefully having you listen to it in a new way, just take that extra step to jot down a couple of notes, and hopefully that includes, the information so that me or someone else in communications can contact them and all of that, just to kind of spin that and help people understand that their story can help save the next person as well. Whatever it is that they're going through or have gone through, that can be inspiration, motivation, and just that can kickstart so many more good things. It's a philosophical pay it forward. It's a mindset. And if it nothing else, if you figure out a way to talk to people a little easier and find a way to share their story and engage with their story, even if nothing else comes from it, what you've done is made sure that that person has basically the one of the most valuable things given to them, and that is the attention and time of another person. It really is just that what you've been through, I'm listening. What it is that you're doing, what it is that you're feeling, tell me about it. I want to hear. You just show that genuine interest, and you're allowing them to get something off their chest, and you're allowing them to be the star of their own memory movie. And people love that. If you've invested your time as a volunteer, thank you for that. If you give to the Red Cross in that sense, think of it as giving to this individual on that same level. You've just given them a little bit of your time, and that is wildly invaluable. So if there are no more questions or stories that anyone would like to tell, I'll wrap this up. I just want to say thank you again for stopping in and listening to me rattle on for an hour or so. I want to make sure that please, 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 please log in your hours. That is so wildly helpful for us. We'll make sure that everyone gets some credit for that. So log your hours. If you have anything that you are curious about, that you want to have First Friday focus on in the future, please reach out to me or my volunteer engagement lead, Kyoka. You can see both of our contact information up there on the screen. And yeah, I would love to hear from you if there's something that you've gone through that you're like, I learned this. I think that this is a procedure that's very helpful. And I'm hoping that you got something good out of this. So thank you for participating. Looking forward to seeing you all at our next First Friday. So be on the lookout for that. And until then, happy Good Friday, happy Easter, and all of that. Thank you all so very, very much. And with that, I give you back to your weekend 4 minutes early. That's my gift of time to you.
Happy Good Friday. Happy Easter.
Yes,
Thank
you
you
as well. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Oh, and don't forget to wear easy to remove shoes.
Yes. Yeah. Those ones that you can kick off by the ankle.